There are actually different ways, different tools are available, right, for doing contract test. So we can use Postman for that, and there is a tool called Pact. You can use Pact, or you can use even Karate DSL for contract testing. But I will be showing only Postman here for the demo. So let's see what is the process actually, and how we can create a contract test using Postman. First thing is, suppose I want to use some API. Okay, this is the API, and this API somebody is providing. Okay, to the environment. So first thing is I have to create a blueprint. Basically, blueprint is nothing but here is a no collection. Okay, in that collection I have to specify what that API is I'm expecting, actually what I'm expecting from that API, right? So the major no structure. So suppose this is a structure, the API will return. This is my blueprint basically. Now blueprint is, you can consider as a template. So as a consumer, this is the uh, thing I'm expecting, and this is the complete structure of that API. Basically, if you call that API, the producer will send this in this format. Basically, what I have done, I have created this API, okay, and I created this example also. Okay, so this was available in Postman only. I copied from there. It came along with that. If it is you are creating from scratch, then you have to create the complete example. There is an option, add example. When you click on add example, this thing will come, and then you can add the example. Assume that somebody, the provider, is actually giving me this particular response for this API. Fetch the log, okay, and it is giving me this particular example. So as a provider, this can be created by either consumer or provider. If consumer knows the complete response structure, consumer can create, or else provider can also create the blueprint. Any party can create. Because Postman actually suggests like this should be created by the provider, so that consumer will not miss any important fields or anything, right? So that has to be created by the provider. But yeah, it's not mandatory like only provider should create, any party can create. So this is my basically contract, main contract. This is my API, and this is how it looks like. Now I added a mock basically, and the mock is giving me this response. Okay, in real scenario, maybe it isn't working. It can be a working API, right? So for example, Spotify, right? So we know how the response looks like. You can use a working API. So I just created a mock. Now suppose I have two consumers, okay, and I want to add a contract basically, right? So I want to add my contract test for this particular API. I'll go here and I'll define my no, in the test tab, I'll define what exactly I'm expecting. Okay, suppose assume that the first consumer needs only the server name here. If you see the response, it is service name, timestamp, and description. It is returning. And the first contract, the first consumer wants only server name basically, right? So I will add my test accordingly. Like, okay, I have added only very two tests. One is like status code is 200. Another one is to verify the schema, which is like I want at least in the response server name should be there of type string. Okay, so that is my contract basically with the consumer for this particular API. Now suppose I have another consumer, right? So this is only for one consumer. Suppose this API has been used by so many consumers, right? So another consumer, I need all the things. I need server name, I need timestamp, I need description, right? So I will add my test accordingly. This is the difference, right? This is the contract test. So you are writing your contract here in terms of your test, and once you have the test, you can actually give all this, collections, right, to your provider. Suppose consumer is writing this test, right? So consumer will share this particular collection to the provider and tell them like, okay, I want I this is my contract test basically, and I want this in this format only. So I consider only this particular attributes in my response, and whenever you want, you can run this basically, right? So in postman, right, so we can share collections and all, you can export and you can give it to anybody. Okay, so once we have a blueprint, so we can write our contracts based on our own need. Now tests are nothing but your simple in test level, right? So there is postman doesn't say like, we are providing something extra for contract driven testing, right? So contract is something we define from the test, right? So you are responsible for your APIs and for your integration with the third parties. So you have to define your test, and it has to run successfully. So yeah, now I am running with a mock, but we have our actually URLs ready. We can run with the actual URLs. What I am doing here, first contract may I am actually the schema is different. What I am specifying here, server name, timestamp, and description, right? So three I am looking for in the second one, but the first contract, right? Here I am checking only server name. That is the key difference. Like, you can add the test based on your contract, but see, in real time, you may not have only single response, right? So I have executed it and the test is passing. So once the test is passed, right? So what is the next step basically, right? So you have created your contract, you have, created, added the validations, right? So, and your test is passing. Now, next step will be you have to share this to the provider, or if it is a provider driven, provider has to share like, this kind of blueprint with the consumer with the example. So postman actually suggests like, in any way, if you are creating, whoever is creating the blueprint, they have to share the blueprint along with the example. Okay, and then consumer side or provider side, they can create the test and they can share the test in common repository. Okay, and then next step is like, suppose you want to run this continuously, right? So in your maybe CI environment, so you can integrate your Newman to the your CI environment, and you can run it continuously. Another way of monitoring contract test is using monitors. So if you go here, so you can Postman has something called monitors. I think I have not showed you all about monitors. So what we can do, we can select the collections, right? Whatever we want to run. For example, consumer to contract I want to run. So you can give a name, and then you can give a schedule. Okay. So automatically it will run, and once it is completes, it will send you a email to your registered email basically. Is a good way of monitoring. So what Postman suggests as a best practice, like, you should follow, like create a blueprint, create the test, then integrate with your CI or create a monitor, to run it. So this is one very important test when we test the microservices, because mostly since microservices are independent service, right? So we need to write integration test, and one way of do a smoke test for your integration is contract test. So your main API testing suite should have a contract minimum contract test with the integrated APIs. Okay, you should only understand the difference between how otherwise the way we write the test is similar, right? The way we write regular test and the way I have written the contract test, which is actually similar. Only your validation points are different.